Welcome to Building Profitable Relationships, the podcast where we talk with successful entrepreneurs and business owners who have built strong and profitable relationships with their customers, partners, and peers. In our conversations, we explore the heart and science of relationship building in the world of business. Welcome to this week's episode of Building Profitable Relationships. The topic for today is communicating effectively to build profitable relationships. I am Yvonne A. Jones of 15wisercoaching.com. I am your host for the Building Profitable Relationships podcast. So to get right into our topic for today, let's take a moment and think about why is communication so important in every kind of relationship that we can think about. And it's essentially that poor communication or lack of effective communication can make or break a relationship at all levels. During my first ever job, many years ago, in a commercial bank, one of the first business trainings I was sent on had to do with customer service. And something that the trainer stressed has lived with me throughout all my different positions over the years. And that is the importance of being able to communicate effectively. It is so important, especially in relationship with, at the time, we're focusing on the relationship with the customer. But that's only just one small aspect of it all, one small group. So today we're going to be focusing on an overview of 3 fundamentals to good communication: active listening, building empathy and rapport, and asking questions. Now, did you know that communication problems account for over 65% of workplace conflict? Or that poor communication can cost businesses up to $420,000 per year for every 100 employees. It's really time for a reality check. Effective communication is the backbone of any successful business, and it's also the foundation, and we can say the backbone too, of strong relationships. So let me ask you this: are you struggling to connect with clients, partners, or your colleagues? Does it feel like you're speaking a different language even though you know you're using the same words? There's a quote by George Bernard Shaw that I really like. He said, "The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place." So together, let's break that illusion and make sure that our messages not only reach their desired destination, but also create the impact that we desire. So let's start out with active listening. What is it? Active listening is the process of fully concentrating, understanding, responding, and remembering what is said. When we listen actively, it helps us to understand and connect with others. It builds trust with clients and colleagues, and it encourages open and honest communication because it creates a safe space where people feel free to share. I can remember when I worked in HR at Nestle many years ago before migrating to the United States, one of the common things I heard from employees was that they enjoyed talking with me because I listened and I cared. And that was kind of a wake-up call for me to really make sure that when I'm talking to people, they understand that I'm truly listening and I'm interested in what they have to say. So here are some ways we can show that we're listening actively. We can do this by our eye contact, our body language, because if we pull back like this and we slouch, it's a different thing from sitting up and showing that we are attentive. Repeating or paraphrasing what the speaker said. Nonverbal cues like, just to show that we are still involved. Simple, but effective. Here are a couple of bad examples. Interrupting the speaker. I've been guilty of that too. Then there are distractions. In this age of technology, where everyone has a cell phone close at hand, it's important that we're going to show people that we're really listening to them, that we put aside our devices. And then we also want to avoid giving advice and providing solutions too early. One of the worst things we can do is trying to give advice to something we don't fully understand. We end up looking stupid anyway. So that's something, if we're in the habit of doing that, we want to try to avoid that. And here are a few tips to improve our active listening skills. Clear our minds and focus on the speaker. Let the person finish their thought and resist the urge to finish their sentences for them. Then ask for clarification if needed. And then we want to confirm to ensure that we fully understand what they're saying. And make it a habit to practice active listening in daily conversations. This can be a challenge, especially people that we are very familiar with, because we hear half of what they're saying. And then they say, remember, I told you so and so, and you have no clue what they're talking about. All right, so let's move on to empathy and rapport building. What is empathy? Empathy is the ability to understand and share another person's feelings and emotions, essentially walking someone else's shoes. Here are some good examples. When someone is speaking with us, acknowledge their emotions and perspectives. Yes, their emotions may be over the top as far as we are concerned because we're different personality types, but empathy will allow us to acknowledge that, validate the person, the individual. Use inclusive language. Instead of you, say we. Or instead of I, say we. Then try to find common ground, establish common ground and shared interest. These can help us to find something that we can connect with so that we're more able to walk in the person's shoes and validate their feelings. Let them know you understand. Now, some examples that we want to avoid is making assumptions or judgments. It's human nature. We hear something and we immediately assume or immediately judge the person. If we can learn to avoid doing that, and it's a learned process because our natural inclination is to judge, then we want to avoid one-upping the person or constantly talking about oneself. Ever been in one of those conversations where you're telling someone and the next person says, yeah, the same thing happened to me, and they go off on a tangent, totally ignoring what you were saying to them? And that goes hand in hand with my next point about minimizing the other person's feelings or experiences, because essentially we are saying what you experience is not important to me. So here are 4 tips to improve empathy and rapport building. Cultivate self-awareness and emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence will allow us to control our emotions so we are able to give the other person the attention they need and deserve. Then we want to be genuine and authentic. Genuine and authentic. Don't put on a facade of caring. Really care. People can sense it if you're faking it. Then we want to express gratitude and appreciation. It could simply be gratitude and appreciation to the person for trusting you enough to come to you with their challenge, or if it's a work situation, grateful to them that they're willing to listen. You're willing to listen to them and they're willing to reciprocate so that you can come to an amicable conclusion. Then you want to offer support and understanding. That's all encompassing in showing empathy. And as you're showing empathy, you're automatically building rapport, because if you're showing understanding, if somebody recognizes that you really care about them, then it also allows them to share more with you and open up for building rapport. So we go to our final point, and that is asking questions. Now, I love this quote from Indira Gandhi, which says, "The power to question is the basis of all human progress." There are really so many benefits to asking powerful questions, but let's just focus on 3 of them. 1 is to gather more data for decision making. Then 2, clarify information. And 3rd, show engagement and interest. So how can we break these down? Let's look at some good examples. We have open-ended questions. What's the purpose of open-ended questions generally? It's to encourage discussion and elaboration. We want to find what is in the person's mind. What are they thinking? What are their views on a particular topic? So that we can come to some agreement. If we don't know what's in the other person's mind, then it's very difficult to come to an agreement about anything. The second kind of question in this close-ended, there is a time and a place for closed-ended questions. And why do we use those? Because we want to elicit specific answers or facts. In other words, when they're closed-ended, there's very little direction you can go. It's either the facts or just what it is expressed in the thought from the person to whom we are addressing the question. Then there are reflective questions to check understanding. Do you understand the point of what I'm making? How do you feel about this? What is coming up for you? Those are reflective questions. And then we want to ask thoughtful and relevant questions. These help to demonstrate our understanding of the matter and also generate curiosity. Because when you're having a conversation with someone in whatever relationship you're in, whether it's a business relationship, a personal relationship, and you ask questions, the person immediately understands and appreciates that you want to know more. You're not just listening and saying, but you're asking these questions because you're interested in them. Now, like all the other points we've covered, what are some bad examples? Some examples that we really don't want to emulate. One is leading questions, because essentially what we're doing, we are steering someone to think the way we do, rather than listening and asking for their opinion and their thoughts on the matter. Then there are times we can go overboard in our questioning by asking invasive or inappropriate questions. Then another way, that's a bad example, is to overwhelm the person with whom you're having a conversation, with too many questions. People can become overwhelmed because you're throwing questions at them from left and right. So make sure you avoid these. Instead, you want to be curious, but non-judgmental. Then you want to tailor your questions to the context and the audience. So the questions should not be designed to show how much you know and how you can one-up the audience, but rather discover what it is that the audience knows, so that if it says a training situation, you can help them to get to the next level. Or it could be a coaching or mentoring situation. Find out what they know first so you can build on that. Then the last thing we want to do is allow people to think about it, give them the space to respond. One of the biggest challenges in this particular scenario is with coaches and their clients. So they may ask them a question and the client takes a little while to answer. What do? They feel they have to fill the space, and so they keep talking. One of the best things and most effective strategies that we can implement for the benefit of those to whom we speak is allow them a pause, embrace silence so that the person can think and answer us in a way that truly expresses what's on their heart and on their mind. So today we have covered 3 fundamental aspects of effective communication. That's active listening, building empathy and rapport, and asking questions. Remember that effective communication is important in every relationship with your peers and colleagues, with your customers and clients, your teams and management. I encourage you to do a self-assessment. And I do have a self-assessment form that you can just it's basically to ask yourself certain questions and to evaluate for yourself. Where do I need to improve in my communication skills? There are tons of books that are available that you can read, but I encourage you, reach out to me. If you have any questions, reach out to your coach. If you already have a coach or a mentor or an accountability partner, just ask them to listen, to watch you. What is your body language, your nonverbal communication saying? How do you interact with others? Does it motivate people to want to speak with you, or do they feel worse when they speak with you? It's no judgment here, but sometimes we can get into habits that we are not even aware of. So I encourage you, think about the points that we have covered in this podcast today and see what area do you need to improve. If you're already excelling in all areas, awesome. Thank you so much for listening. I am Yvonne A. Jones, again of 15 Wiser Coaching, and I look forward to speaking with you with my next guest on the podcast, Building Profitable Relationships.